All righty. Ariane, the Smog King. Super excited to get into this podcast. We were just talking a little bit, and I think it's something that most people pretty much haven't heard of. And
Yeah.
just in principle, seems like a huge opportunity that other people could also be taking advantage of. So I wanted to start off kind of by just give an introduction to yourself and where you're from and kind of how you got into doing smog testing and what that's turned into today.
Yeah. So what's going on, everyone? I appreciate you, Brennan, for even having me on, considering me, as a guest. A little short notice, but hey, we love
Yeah,
surprises and
man, it
and
worked.
we're getting it going. So my name is Ari Nazari. I am the founder of Smog King. Smog King is my social media brand. Now, what that social media brand entails is the smog business. So not a lot of people know this business, but here in the state of California, in order to register your vehicle, a gasoline powered vehicle, if the vehicle is 6 years or older from the manufacturer date, you have to get a smog check biannually. So every 2 years, that car needs to get smogged. What are smog checks? Smog checks are vehicle emissions tests, and we perform them at smog shops, so vehicle emissions facilities. Quick in and out process. Car comes in, 15 minutes. We just make sure that the car is not a gross polluter. So as you can see, I'm in Southern California right now, specifically San Diego. That air, right? That air quality doesn't come cheap. It comes at the price that everyone follows these laws and is in line with the emissions regulations. So we don't turn into China, or we don't turn into Iran or India, or even here in California, we have LA, New York. You see that thick layer of smog above the city that harms your lungs, that has long-term, health effects on your body. That's what we're here to enforce. The state enforces it. We just kind of follow the rules of the state.
Yeah. Another
Yeah.
bad one, Mexico City. I was just flying over Mexico City, and it's like, you think it kinda looks like fog or clouds, but it's just a mo smog is just sitting
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
top of
And
it.
a lot of people knock this business, but it's like I still live in LA. Every time I go to LA, I start coughing, right? Or, even San Bernardino or, New York. You start going to those states and you start really realizing like, damn, I don't smoke. I mean, I smoke, but like, non-smokers, right? It's like, whoa, I don't smoke, but I'm coughing. How does that work? Smart.
Yeah. Is it as bad as people say it is to live in California right now? It used to be the dream, but now,
Yeah.
lately you hear in the news, everyone talks crap about California. Do you enjoy living there?
I love living in California. I wouldn't live anywhere else, right? Do I get bored of, some of the stuff? Do I get bored of the state? Yeah. And that's kind of ironic for me to say because I haven't even seen the whole state. I haven't gone up to like San Francisco or any of the other parts, right? But it's a difficult state to survive in if you're in the wrong business. But that's any state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Like people say, yeah, oh my God, like, owning a restaurant here is so hard. Well, owning a restaurant anywhere is hard, right?
Right,
Being in the wrong business is hard. I got people in my program that have been in the HVAC industry, right? Any service based industry, they're making decent money, small shops included.
yeah. So can you
Yeah.
do that business in most states, or is this just California where you can get these up and running? Because I know Texas has emissions testing. I just
Yeah.
had to do mine.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
translate?
Yeah, so I think Texas just got rid of theirs or they're planning to get rid of theirs. So it works basically if your state's densely populated, that's where smog checks are required. I got people in my comment section saying like, "Oh yeah, my state doesn't require smog." Brother, you're in the middle of Illinois. Like no one cares about, I mean, sorry, but no one cares about your state. Like you got one person per 1,000 square miles. That doesn't necessarily affect you, right?
Right, yeah.
Four states in the US require smog checks. Those are typically the blue states or densely populated states, which typically tend to lean blue anyway, right? In any major cities or whatever. But 34 states require them. Now, out of those 34, I don't have the metrics for all of these because I don't specialize in those other states, and I'll get to that in a second. 34 states require it. Out of those 34, I don't know how many, but some states, the state actually does the emissions test,
Mm,
right? So Nevada, for example, they have smog shops exactly like California's, but their emissions policies are a little bit more laxed. And then you have like New Jersey. New Jersey, they have similar smog regulations as California. And then you move on to New York, which is similar, but I would say a little bit more strict on their emission standards than California. So they require it every year.
So I know in Texas we have emissions testing that can just be done at your local mechanic. Is that also the
Yeah.
case in California?
Same thing, yeah.
But yours is just strictly smog testing.
I got mechanic shops as well. So here they're called smog test and repair facilities.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Now, are you a big car guy? Are you prone to working on cars anyways, or is this also just okay? You're a car guy.
Uh, no, I get that question all the time. Ironic enough, I don't even know how to change oil on a car, and I own
Let's
mechanic shops.
go. I like that better. Okay.
Yeah. No,
So
I
how did
mean,
you stumble into this business then?
so yeah, great question. I've always loved cars. It's not that I don't love cars. I've always loved cars. I've had some pretty crazy cars myself. I just have always loved business. I've loved making money. I don't care if I'm, doing whatever. If I'm laying tile, I don't care. As long as I'm making good money out of that industry, so be it, right? So I was never like, okay, I gotta, just because I love cars, I gotta go into the car business. I just happened to stumble upon this business when I had to get a smog check. I was in community college at the time. I was working two 9 to 5 jobs. I was working Sunglass Hut and I was working Sinopolis, right? I had to get a smog check on my 2000, it was a 2011 BMW 535i, and I had to register the car again, get a smog check. I went to the smog check facility by my community college. I stood there, I was like, "Damn, this guy took a piece of paper." So it's like this, it's like a letter in the mail that comes in the mail like this. You go to
Yeah.
a smog shop, the guy took that piece of paper, 15 minutes later, I had to pay $60. How does that make sense, right? It doesn't even like this dude is making $60 in 15 minutes, and I'm over there working for, I think minimum wage at that time was like $10. Oh, and I'm making $10 an hour. Something isn't adding up here. That's when I stumbled upon this business. I was like, dude, this guy knows something I don't. So I got to kind of figure out what this business is about. And then from there, I opened up my first smog shop right after that COVID hits. So yeah, I almost went bankrupt. That was kind of bad. And then I started figuring out I'm an essential business. So it doesn't matter, earthquakes, pandemic, COVID, you still breathe air. Everyone breathes air. So
Yeah.
that's when I realized, oh my God, I can keep my doors open. So during COVID, a lot of people unfortunately lost their businesses or were financially struggling. My business was running just fine.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
went from working a minimum wage job to getting your emissions testing done and then starting a business that makes, I think I saw in the video you said like 100K a month.
I net 100K a month. Yeah. So my
Man, bro.
business is doing a little more than I net about 35%. So, do the math, a little over 300 a month.
Damn.
Companies, man. Yeah.
So dude, was the learning curve on that crazy? You just went and like, did you ask somebody that was doing one of these and just take a course, or because I know you teach it now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that was a lot steeper of a learning curve than having someone like you just show you exactly what to do. What was that process?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the learning curve in any business, right? In any field is difficult. So you got to learn, right? Now, there's things in business that can't be taught. There's experiences that you have in your business, for example, that are specifically designed for you, and you've only experienced that. Even other people in your same industry have not experienced some of the struggles that you faced, right? But how do you combat that? You get someone that's been in the industry for long enough that has probably experienced everything you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Even if they haven't, they could guide you in the right direction. That's where I kind of came at it with this business, right? My online business, particularly, right? So teaching the students. I've been through so much trial and error myself. The first 3 years of this business, I didn't take a single dollar from it, right? I was profiting, but I was reinvesting in the business because how do you understand leases, right? There's no course on a lease that you have to take, right? And there was no chat GPT at the time. Now GPT, you could just plug anything in. and it gives you that information. Google only gives you so much, right?
Yeah.
Lease negotiations is one. How do you kind of maneuver past all of the licensing? There's no course, there's no smog course online. Yeah, you could take a course to become a smog technician, but who's going to teach you the city business licenses, fictitious business names, business credit cards, lease negotiations? I'll say that again, right? The
Yeah.
proper employees, the proper equipment, how to get the equipment, why to get whatever equipment, right? So that's all just trial and error that I went through. The learning curve was relatively difficult, but looking back on it now, it wasn't as hard, but at the time that I was in it, it was extremely difficult, right? Not knowing where my money's coming from, right? Why am I losing money on this business, even though it's a state mandated business? So a shop could look perfect on paper, matching my criteria that I say via my curriculum, right? But it's not making me money. Why? What did I have to tweak in the ads? What did I have to tweak in the employee? How to make sure my employee's actually there? How to make sure money's not getting stolen? And this isn't just specific to smog. This is specific to any business. I just kind of specialized in the smog business, going through those trials and errors, which is what I teach the students now, kind of on like a hands-on learning type model, right? So my program, I broke it down very holistically. So I stepped back, giving them information about the small business. Because 99% of people coming into my program, including yourself, right, even talking to me right now, have no idea what the business is, but they've been around it, right? So how do I inform you and how do I take you into my shops? How do I take you into shops that didn't work? Why? I wasn't recording myself at the time. I wasn't vlogging myself at the time, right? And if I was, there'd be gold in that content, but I kind of remade all of that content, giving them real world experiences through videos, unlike traditional programs or whatever, if you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so can we kinda take a like a 30,000-foot view of the business as kind of where you start and what an end product looks like? You mentioned you gotta get a lease, you gotta
Yep.
get equipment,
Yep.
licenses. At what point does this thing start churning money? Like, what does the whole, blueprint look like just from a
Yeah.
firm vantage point?
So looking at it from, way up there, you're taking a garage bay that's on the side of a gas station and you're converting it to a vehicle emissions testing facility, a smog shop. As simple as that. I wish it was more complex. I wish it was sexier. I wish, there was some jazz about it, but you're taking a, you know, garage that the landlord is using to store Red Bull, cigarettes, Gatorade, whatever the gas station has. You're going up to him. Hey, John, I want a lease for, 5 years plus two 5-year options, 15 years, right? I'll pay you X amount of dollars and you have a good day and I'll have a good next 15 years. And then with what you do with that small job, set it up, signage, all of that stuff, which is kind of a cookie cutter process now for me because I've done it so many times. And then you take that small shop and after 3 months, you're breaking even on the shop. At the fourth month, you'll probably start recouping and seeing some sort of return on your investment.
Wow, and there's no reason these gas station owners wouldn't wanna do this because they're just using it to store it's wasted space essentially, if I'm understanding that correctly, right?
I mean, as a business owner, isn't it your objective to maximize your profit per square foot on the establishment you're doing business? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5-year lease, at least initially, so with options, so you're kinda on the hook for 5 years once you do this, right?
Yeah.
That's the upfront risk. So how are you, guaranteeing that, this is gonna be a profitable smog shop and that this is the location and this is, where you wanna do it? How are you
Yeah.
analyzing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, just given my experience, I'm at a point in my life now in business, especially in the small business. I don't want to say business because I'm by no means like a billionaire or whatever, but I can just look at the shop and tell you this is going to make money or not because of X, Y, and Z. Either I've been through it or I have a shop very similar to that. It makes sense? And I don't know how else to kind of describe it, but it's like you've been in the business long enough, you know the traffic, you know how it works, you know how the operation's kind of going to go in your head, right? And that's what I've taught basically throughout my curriculum.
So what was your first one? Did you get that one right, or was that one of your
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My
learning curves
first
there?
one, yeah, 3 days after I turned 19 years old, November 19th, I opened my first smog station.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So, that first shop was, man, it was a very fruitful shop to say the least. That shop was amazing. That shop established me. I had that shop during COVID, everything. And that shop led me to multiple other stations. Yeah, it was really good. I ended up selling that shop, which now I regret, but I made a promise to my technician. My technician was a great dude. His name is Tom. I don't think he watches my content. Old timer, but you know, he wanted that shop for his kids. And he basically made a promise to me the first day I hired him. He said, "Hey, I don't care if you hire me or not, just promise me one thing." I said, "What?" Very good guy. He had very honest, loyal dude. He said, "Promise me that you'll sell the shop to me." And I did a few years down the line. And I know how much that guy's making now. He's making pretty good money. He's making pretty good
Well,
money. Yeah.
hey, if it was that was just like a verbal agreement,
It was a handshake, man. Yeah.
it's a handshake. Yeah, that's a good way of doing business. I mean, that's
That's
probably
the
what
only
keeps
way,
you making money.
really. That's the only way, in my opinion, right?
And how did you pick that one? Was it lucky in a sense because you didn't have the experience yet?
Yeah. So the previous guy on that location, I don't know what happened with him. I think he passed away or something. I don't know. That's like landlord talk. But I just saw that one on the market and I was like, okay, well, time to learn, you know? So I invested literally everything I had in that first shop.
Okay, and how much are these leases? So how much money are you putting into this thing, and then what kind of returns are you getting per month? Like you mentioned, like month 4 is when you start to take a profit. What do the
Yeah.
numbers look like? Are you spending like
You
5,000
want
a
me to
month?
show you numbers on my payment processor on this phone?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. These are real time numbers, by the way. This is my Square app for whoever doesn't believe me. I can't show you the name of the shop just for security. But here we go on reports, we go on sales. That's today, right now, as of what time is it? 3:49 p.m. It says $499 this
For that
one
one.
shop has been doing,
Cool.
right? Now, let me go on. So you see that right there? It says December 2026 or 2025. You see that? So I'm going to click December 1st through the 31st, 75 cents. You see that at the bottom?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's realistically what you should be expecting. Obviously, December was a slow month just because, you have New Year's, you had all the other stuff, Christmas, I gave my guys off and everything. But my average shop is doing anywhere top line revenue of 20 to $25,000.
And how much is your cost per
My
one? Like,
cost to operate an average smog station, this is plus minus $2,000. Good rule of thumb is $13,500, 13 and a half thousand. Now, why do I say plus minus 2,000? Because there's two things that are in factor of that. It's your rent and your employee. There's fixed costs, which are your equipment, state fee, licensing based for the most part, right? It depends on the city, but the state licenses are the same. And then your internet, phone, that stuff. But your rent and your employee are two things that fluctuate. So on that shop that I just showed you, my rent is $2,650. But I have another shop, right, in the San Diego area. My rent is $1,500 a month.
like,
So it's
that's
like a
not bad.
thousand. Yeah, no, no. I mean, again, people are like, "Oh my God, there's no way that works in California." What are you rent? Right? It's not like desired real estate that you're renting. So
Yeah, it's just an extra 1,500 bucks in a gas station owner's pocket that he wouldn't have had otherwise. He can find somewhere else
exactly.
to put his cigarettes, you know what I mean?
That's what
That's
I'm saying. Yeah, they just scooted over most of the time. I mean, they have multiple bays. You know.
okay, you said 1 employee, so that's pretty low overhead, not very
Yeah.
complicated business in that sense.
Yeah.
Because I know some businesses, I mean, the more people you have, the more problems pretty much, you know?
What's your
Well,
most expensive part of business?
mhm,
Labor, right?
yeah,
In
labor, yeah.
any business, I don't care if you're an Apple, it's not the production. The iPhone costs like $200 to make, right? But Joe Schmo's salary up there in Silicon Valley is 400 grand. You get what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like that's the most expensive part of any business. I don't care if you're in tech, I don't care if you're in, the restaurant industry, I don't care if you're in service, right? In a first world country, your most expensive part of any business is your labor. Now, the smog industry, again, it's like I keep talking good about it, but I'm just giving you guys straight facts, right? The smog business, it's different because you only have one guy running the show, one smog technician per smog station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, this is genius. Do you know of other people that are like just focusing on emissions testing, or are you the primary guy that's kind of trailblazing this?
I want people to go on Instagram and search up another smart guy.
I
No,
think,
no one in this yeah, no one else in this industry exists, and I'll tell you the main reason for that, right? If you look, I know you're in Texas, but even in Texas, I want you to go around to those small shops. Tell me the average age of the people that you see over there. Average age. I'm not saying go to one and then the guy's like 23. No.
yeah, they're
Go
all
to
like,
10, go to 15, and tell me the average age. Here in California, bro, they're all boomers, right? And are your parents still around?
yeah,
Yeah. How well does your dad know how to use his iPhone compared to you?
not as well.
That's your question right over there, right? So, people seeing me on social media, you're already ahead of the competition in this business because they don't even know how to navigate social media, right? And they're all owner operators themselves, anyways. So that's another problem too in the business. People are stuck in their business. I've kind of taken myself out of the business.
Okay. Just kind of touching back on the expenses. So you mentioned an employee, you got
Yeah.
equipment. And so let's go over some of those like fixed cost and also not fixed in the other sense. So why does your employee change in cost? And then what kind of cost are you having with your equipment?
Yeah. So different cities, obviously it's a bit more expensive, right? So a technician in Los Angeles is not going to be the same cost as a technician in, I don't know, San Bernardino, right?
Got it.
Like, or
That's
in
what you're
San
saying.
Diego, right? It's just the
Yeah.
cost of living per that city. Yeah.
And then what about the other overhead? What, so 1,500, 2,000 about for the rent, maybe about the same for the employee month, or what
Yeah.
do you pay?
So my employees like anywhere from 4,500 to 5,500 a month, depending on the city. Yeah. And then you got your rent anywhere from $1,500 to 3K. 3K is kind of what I cap it at. I don't have smog shops for 3K a month, but even if I did, it would have to be like a really home run shop, right? Like everything would have to match, everything would have to be there. And then I'd sign the lease on that. And then you got another like 100 sub $200 for phone internet. That again, that's dependent on where you're at and the providers and whatever, right? And then you have your equipment rentals, which are $800 a month. That's fixed cost. And then you have what else? The state fee, right? So every smog that we perform, a portion of that gets sent to the state of California, and that's dependent on how many cars you have there a month.
Okay.
And yeah, that's basically it. And then you want to factor in like another $1,000, $2,000 for advertisements. Then another, and I overestimate my numbers, right? Because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. 1,000, $2,000 advertising, and then you got another 1,000 for miscellaneous.
Okay. So your first month, you got basically like 15K or something. You probably want a budget for startup cost.
So the startup cost in a small shop, I start my small stations for around $10,000 now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Just because you've got it dialed in, so you know exactly how to get things rolling and everything. So
exactly.
$10,000 goes in, and then,
Yeah.
right away, you start getting cars in there,
I
basically
mean,
once you sign the lease?
yeah, basically, once the shop's set up, opening day, because you have to pass the state inspection as well to make
Yeah.
sure you have all the equipment and everyone's licensed and all of that stuff, right? So a state rep comes out and they inspect everything. You got to make sure not to fail that state inspection too, because that sets you back, at least 2 weeks. So that's another thing that people oversee, right? Time is money in any business, and the less time you spend on that nitty gritty BS, that saves you a ton of money. And then yeah, once you're open, man, it's a state mandated business. Like a smog check doesn't matter if you get a smog check in, by the Tijuana border or you get it in San Francisco. A smog check is a smog check regardless of where you're at in California.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so then, like, are you seeing across your different smog shops, Was 20K, like, how long does it take to get to that 20K mark?
Every shop's dependent. Every shop is a little bit different, right? But how do you get there as fast as possible? That's the question. And every shop requires a little bit different strategy, tactic, method of approach, right? For you to get there as fast as possible.
Okay, and so, like, just kinda go into that a little bit more. So you're saying, like, you need to dial in your marketing better, or the location kinda makes the difference there?
Yeah.
What are you seeing cause the variations between, like, a really good smog shop versus a underperforming?
Yeah, underperforming, I mean, underperforming shops are the ones that are, like, in the middle of nowhere,
Okay.
right? Or in the back of, like, automotive plazas, right? Location, location, location. That's, like, one of my mentors, that's what they always told me, and that's what kinda sticks, right? It doesn't matter in whatever business you're at.
Yeah.
Think about really successful businesses, right? Especially here in California, and I'll give you one right off the bat, In-N-Out. What makes In-N-Out so profitable and so successful? Good frontage, good location, good lots, good accessibility. What do you think the small business model is like?
Yeah, isn't that so that's probably most of those service businesses, right? You wanna be McDonald's, yeah, is they're king of that. They're on the best corners in every town you go in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So finding those locations one of the hardest parts of getting it started in this whole thing is getting the right spot, or is it pretty easy to find?
Finding Well, I have a data finder. I have a data finder software that's specific to my program. And I spent thousands of dollars getting that thing up and running. So you can find locations virtually from anywhere in the world. I'm actually signing a lease either today or tomorrow in LA with a student who's actually in, I think, Pennsylvania or New Jersey or something. He's like all the way on the other side of the US, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit difficult if you don't have access to that software.
Yeah.
But I would say the most difficult part about this business is getting started properly. What do I mean by that? Is having the right equipment and not failing any of the licensing or the state inspections. Because that sets you back so much and it's so difficult. It's frustrating because even if you sign a lease, if you're not licensed, you cannot start this business, right? And I'll give you guys an example. It's like you go to the DMV, correct? Now, let's just say misspell your last name. You know, the last letter of your last name is an A. What if I put a Z? Now, tell me how long it's going to take for you to get a new driver's license with your updated name on that.
Right, yeah, it takes forever. Anything with the government's just a train wreck.
Yeah. Now, what do you expect? Do you think the small business is any different? Right?
I mean, I'm sure you're dealing with the same people.
Same stuff, same business, it's just different sectors of the business. So you got to make sure you get started off properly. And how do you do that? You obviously have experience and you've done it multiple times and you have someone that oversees all of your work prior to you even submitting it. That's what I would say is the most difficult part about this business.
Is the licensing and just making sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed? Just m
Doing it
ev
properly. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so once you get this one started up, it sounds like, after a few months, if you do things the right way, you can cash flow about 10K a month or maybe 7 to 10K a month per smog shop,
Yeah, I would say 7 to 12. Yeah.
7 to 12. And then what type of time commitment is this for you with each individual smog shop? Do you have somebody now that manages all of them, or are you still the operator of all your smog shops?
Yeah. I got people in place now. But that's the thing, right? How did I take myself out of the business? How have I been able to take myself out of the business while knowing what's going on in my business at any given time, right? So it's one thing being a business owner that's an operator. There's another thing being a business owner who's absent, completely different animals, right? So I'm not necessarily a big believer in the fact that just because I'm a business owner, I have to be tied down to my business at any given time. And quite frankly, I think the people that are like that are just glorified 9 to 5 employees. So I've taken myself out to the point where I actually got a bachelor's in political science pre law while I had my entire company running full time. So, yeah, the time commitment is little to none. It's a state mandated business, runs by itself, and you only have to be there realistically once every 2 to 3 weeks.
Once every 2, 3
If
weeks
that,
per
yeah, that's
per
just to pick
smog
up the
shop?
no, no, you could have multiple smaller shops. You're just there to pick up the cash,
Oh, I see what you're
right?
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's dependent. If you wanna have a cash list shop, which some people that I know have that, you in theory, never have to be there.
So this thing just runs on autopilot for you now, and it's
Yeah,
cranking out 300K top line revenue, and you're taking 30% of that,
yeah,
and then, you're just going to get a political science degree.
yeah, yeah. I thought I was gonna be a lawyer until I started making more than my lawyers. I'm like, "The fuck am I doing here?" I wanted to
Okay.
drop out a few times, but my dad, he discouraged me on that.
Okay, so you were going to school while you were doing the smog business,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you just finished through the degree because you started it and wanted to, you know,
yeah.
get
I
it
mean,
done.
I went to USC, so it was a pretty decent school, private school, smaller in the LA area. So I was like, damn, I really want to drop out. Do I think school is a waste of time? Kinda, right? But I got experiences out of it, which was kind of cool. But if I were to go back, I would skip school altogether. I would skip community college. I'd be so much further ahead. If I knew what I knew now going back, yeah, I'd skip it.
Hey, man. So let's say you got dropped off, in the middle of California with not no none of your resources, just all the
Yeah.
knowledge you have now. How long
Yeah.
do you think it would take you to get from that point to where you are now versus how long it took you the first time around?
Assuming I had nothing, like I had no other obligations.
No other obligations. Your goal is to get back to, where you're at right now in your business.
2 years. Two
You could
years.
do it all in 2 years. How many smog
Yeah.
shops do you have?
16.
Dang. It
I'd probably be
basically
pretty I'd probably be further ahead. Assuming I had no obligations, no social media, nothing. Yeah, 2 years probably. If I solely focused on my business, yeah, I'd probably be further ahead, to be honest with you.
because you
Yeah,
could start over with all of them the right way.
exactly.
And is that with, just money that you've saved up, or are you leveraging credit or other people's money to get these things going? Would that be
Yeah.
assuming you're starting with $0?
Well, I mean, the investment for the business is not, substantial, right? It's 10 to 15K. You're starting a smaller shop. So if you got 10 to $15,000 laying around, you're ultimately losing money realistically. If you look at it, sitting money is just dead money, really. But yeah, 10 to 15K. But yeah, you could leverage business funding on some of the spots, not on like leases and stuff, but yeah, on equipment and all of that stuff. Yeah. But for my program, it's a little dynamic because I actually invest in the students. So I'll put my money where my mouth is and I'll actually invest with you in the small shop. So that student that I said was out of state in New Jersey, I think he's in New Jersey or Canada. He's like up there, bro. He's, on that side of the world. But yeah, he hasn't even seen his shop. He's not investing a single dollar. I have a video on my YouTube with one of the students. I'm actually interviewing him in his shop. He was in Alaska. So it was like, yeah, he was helping his pops move or something. So I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll actually invest with you my own money. You don't have to invest a single dollar. You take equity of that business.
Okay. So, and then just so I'm like kind of thinking through this in my head, so you put that 15K in, and you're not
Hmm.
having to come out of pocket the next month because you're generating profit already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just 15K up front, and then the thing starts printing money if you pass all your
Yeah.
inspections.
Yeah, for the first 3 months, 3 to f yeah, 3 months, you're gonna be plus minus like $1,000. Again, depending on the shop, because there's a specific license, that you haven't gotten yet, that after the 3-month kind of trial period that the state grants you, and then you have much more market share through that. Yeah, and then you'll start profiting after the 4th.
And you might be coming out of pocket like a grand up until then each month, you're
Yeah,
saying?
plus minus $1,000.
And
Or
sorry, what
sometimes
was
you
that?
break even too, right? So,
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
because the state has something they give you a what was that, like a trial or something for
So it's a license, it's a star license. So they grant you a star. It doesn't make sense because it's like people from out of the industry, but after the 3-month period, you
yeah.
apply for your star license, and then that's when they grant you the star license, which opens your market share up to basically every car.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Um And then is your plan ultimately to own like 1,000 of these things? Like, are you gonna be like an empire of smog shops? Or are you eventually gonna like try to sell this business? Or
Yeah.
what's your goal
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, so that's one of the that's a great question actually. We've all seen I'll give you an example. You've seen Valvoline, right?
Yeah,
You've seen Jiffy Lube, right? You've seen O'Reilly's, Pep
yeah.
Boys,
I see where you're going with
Costco.
this. Yeah,
You've never seen one for smog. Why? Yeah.
boomers. No, I don't know why.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, boomers realistically, look, you got to think about the boomer mentality, right? Back in the day. My dad, your dad, for example, right? The white picket fence, the nuclear family, right? Like that was like the end goal of it, right? Like you've made it in life. Like you got a couple kids, they're solid, they went to college. I got my little business going. Dad comes home from work, right? Throw the football around, right? Cool, great. That was their mentality. So these guys, a lot of these boomers never kind of got out of that. So it's like, okay, how could I expand this? How could I grow upon this? How could I make more out of this business? Right. Which is fine. I'm not knocking any boomer out there, right? They're making their money. They're getting by. They're relaxing. That's all they want. Right. They haven't done this with this business. Now, there's some other people in California that have multiple shops, right? But those are just newer. Majority of the people in this business are still boomers. They work in their own shop. They haven't changed for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're okay with that.
Dang.
But
Okay.
yeah,
So you're in California, right? That's like
yeah,
the bread and butter for you. You
yeah,
mentioned other places. So there's the
yeah.
34 other places. Are you familiar with all these other like are your students learning how to do this like in Texas or in, you know, what other, I don't know, Seattle or whatever?
Yeah. Not yet. And the reason I say that because the population density in California is just so high, right? We have more people than any other state. There's more cars on the road than any other state, and we're the richest state, right? Those 3 factors are the factors of success. There's more money here and there's more people here. That's why I specialize in California. And I'll give you an example with Nevada, for example. Nevada is very similar to California, but Nevada smog checks are $20. One of my smog checks you just saw was $54. Now the average, that's one of the shops that's a little bit less. My average shop is doing $60 smogs. So one customer of mine is 3 customers in Nevada. Why would I, expel resources and my energy into Nevada for the time being?
Okay. So then you said one of your students lives in Alaska or Pennsylvania or something, and so
He was
those his are
y
in California?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that student, he was helping his pops move. But yeah, I got students out of state. Like I got students in Nevada that are finding shops in Nevada. You get what I mean? I got students in Florida finding
I
shops and
see.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. See, you know how to do this in other places. It's just best in California in your opinion.
I wouldn't say I know how to do it in other places, but every other state kind of copies California's emissions codes and all of that stuff. So I wouldn't doubt that it's very similar to California's processes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so then someone looking to sign up or get coaching, they could still learn how to do it if they wanted to do it where I guess that's kinda what I'm getting at, like, you could teach someone to do it where they live, or would you recommend them doing one in California?
I recommend in California. Even if you
Okay.
don't live in the state, yeah, even
Really?
if you don't live in the state, that's where the partnership, offer comes into place, right? You don't even have to be in the state. You don't have to be in the
I
state.
see.
You don't have to be here, right? Find the location, boom, done. That's it. And then you and I sign an operator's agreement if you want. I have shops with students. That's a handshake deal, man. You know, the guy just handshake and all right, cool, Arian, I trust you. I send him PLs every month with the business. He's on the bank accounts and he just sees all the numbers and that's it.
Okay, so then what's the value from having the student invest in that versus you just starting your own? Like, are they putting down the initial investment, or how does that partnership
Nope.
work?
I put the whole investment down. And this business model is kind of like Costco, right? Or Amazon, for example, right? Jeff Bezos doesn't know where the next Amazon warehouse is going to be. Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos has more important things that he has to focus on. And that's kind of like where I'm at right now, right? I can't waste time going out there and looking for the locations or searching up, via my data finder, right? All these other locations. I'd rather have, and this is a quote that I live by, it's Rockefeller's quote. I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own, right? That's why I don't hold back in my program or in my content, quite frankly. It's because I can't do everything by myself. Just like
Yeah.
how Amazon doesn't have one employee, Walmart doesn't have one guy running around. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
need a company like this in order to franchise, in order to build it more. So why not have, instead of having one me, why not have 101 me's via my curriculum, via my program and my platform?
Okay. So they're finding the location, kind of doing the legwork on a lot of it, but you're opening it up for them, like with the investment side of it.
I would say they're doing probably like 15% of the work, because I got my operations team, I got my logistics team, right? Those are the people that are doing the 85% of the work. Yeah, getting the shop up and finding a shop is, one thing. It's the easier part, but like getting it set up and, profitable is a whole different beast. So I'm not discounting what anyone's in the program is doing, by the way, right? Like they're doing tremendous work, but the location is one thing, getting it set up properly is another.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's like I definitely think it's good to have some mentorship or guidance with that business because I think, like you're saying, it just takes out a lot of the bumps in the road that you might encounter, like failing inspections and all that. I could totally see how it would just streamline,
Yeah,
getting profitable as fast as possible. But it's also a really unique business where there's not a whole lot of other people doing it. I mean, you're kind of just going to be guessing if you're out there on your own. As
yeah,
simple as it is, there's still, a tried way to do it, I think.
100%. And the example I have for you is, you know, how long ago did you start social media?
Oh, I don't know. I've actually never really been a big social media guy. The podcast is kind of a duality of like, my education and then also trying to grow, but I haven't really established any sort of momentum yet with it. So, but I mean, I could just give you a 5 years or so.
5 years. Okay. So if I were to come to you 5 years ago, right, I would say, hey, brother, pay me 10 grand and you can skip 5 years worth of trial and error, whatever your trial and error would be. Would you do that? So 5 years ago, you would have the same mentality as you do now, with all of the same information helping you skip the thousands of dollars that you've made in mistakes that you've made thus far to get you where you're at right now. Would you take that offer?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's a good deal. I mean, that's where most businesses you're solving for time cost, you're adding value in that capacity. That's
Exactly
fundamental.
what it is. That's exactly what it is, man.
Man, very cool. Okay, so kind of moving from that, I think that business is, it's a very good model. I think it's an overlooked model. People don't know about it. That's good. I like doing this interview and opening people's eyes and stuff like that. So you've made quite a bit of money doing this. You're taking home quite a bit of cash. I'm always curious as far as like the personal finance side of somebody that's making a lot of money. Most people that they may have a budget and they'll spend X amount of dollars on this or they'll invest X amount. What is
Yeah.
what have you learned on the back end of all this as far as like, are you investing in real estate? Are you putting it all back into the business? Are you
Yeah.
just buying whatever you want to?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of financials, right? I don't necessarily, and it's gonna sound kind of arrogant when I say it like this, but I know I have money coming in. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, yeah.
Like, aside, like other business owners might not, right? They could be like, okay, well, we're going in a slow time of the year, like, yada yada. It's a state mandated business, bro. Like I don't have any financial, and thank God I've been blessed enough to be in a position like this, right? Via this industry, but I don't necessarily have to worry about it so much. Now I do have other investments, right? Like I invest in the stock market, I'm in crypto. I do have houses, yeah. But that's kind of like rainy day, God forbid, something were to happen. In terms of budgeting and stuff, not I mean, I can't go out there and buy, like, an island or a jet or whatever,
Yeah.
No, I take trips when I want, if I want something. Luckily, I don't really have much, and I don't need too much to, like, survive, but no, I just kind of
What
go with the flow.
what would you say is like the most baller purchase you've made since coming into the success in your business? Did you buy like a supercar or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I had a few cars, I crashed them.
no way.
Um Yeah, so that wasn't too good. I crashed, my C8 not too long ago. That was kinda bad. I bought a truck, um, bought a Urus. Um, those are obviously not with us anymore. But, the most baller stuff, I guess, I would say I went to Dubai, like, very sporadically with me and my friends, right? I was just like, "Fuck it, like, let's go to Dubai." That was a pretty freaking expensive trip. I bought watches, right? Bought some of that stuff. My apartment, I'm actually in my room right now. That was
Yeah.
kind of a good purchase, but nothing crazy. Like, I don't spend ridiculous, right? But I live comfortable. Like I live a fun life, a life that like I genuinely like to live. I wake up and I do what I want. That's like I would say the most expensive thing that I've bought. Actually, I'll put it like this: is my freedom. That's like a thing that's priceless for me. Yeah.
What would you say is, like, your daily routine? To,
Yeah. 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 Dang, that
multitasking
hurts
with
my heart,
fitness?
man. You don't watch my vlogs, man. You don't watch my vlogs. I vlog every day, bro. No, my daily routine, great question. I try to wake up before 9 because that's when the majority of my shops open up. I wake up around like 7:30. Um, I get ready in the morning, I take a shower. I'm in the gym by 8:30. I'm in the gym for like 2 hours, an hour and a half. I come back home around like 10. I figure out what to eat because I don't necessarily cook ever. Um, Kind of order something. I shower again, and then I got my student calls. So I got student calls every day from 11 to 2 for whoever wants to talk to me. And then I just make content for the rest of the day. That's kind of how it goes. Unless if my friends are like, "Hey, let's go on a trip." Like I just got back from Colombia, right? That was kind of random. And then I went to Panama as well. But my daily routine, that's what it kind of looks like. Unless I'm starting up shops, right? And I want to be there for the startup process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any books you recommend, or are you more of just a doer instead of,
Yeah.
mm, sitting
It's
down and
actually a great book that I'm reading right now. It's called Who Not How. Dan Sullivan is a really good book. Who Not How um, is a book that I'm trying to live by. It basically teaches you all of the who's in your life. So who is going to get it done for me instead of how am I going to get it done? Right. So again, going back to that thought process of I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. Right. Again, it's one thing being a business owner and being an absentee one, and it's another thing being an owner operator. Right. So who is going to take you out of this position instead of how am I going to get out of this position? Who, not how. Yeah, that's a really good book that I'm reading right now.
it sounds like you've curated that reality at this point, right? And is the next phase getting it to the franchise, Valvoline brand? Is that
Yeah.
you're looking for the who's in that one?
I mean, you can find who's in every aspect of your life, right? Like I'm still not perfect, although it might look like that on the outside, right? There's a lot of who's that can be taken up in my life, right? In a lot of different aspects in my life, whether that be the actual curriculum, whether that be in my actual business, right? So I'm still fine tuning this process, but just on a much larger scale, right? So I have found a lot of who's in my life, but I'm still doing a lot of hows, which I could get better at. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
man. I think you've jam-packed this episode with, as much value as possible. We do have the Q&A, that if anybody's interested, this isn't live, but, if you're interested in rewatching the live Q&A, it's gonna be in
Yeah.
the Get Wealth community, and so we can head over
Mhm.
there now if you wanna kinda end the podcast maybe with one piece of advice that you would give somebody that was where you were at, when you were working that 9 to 5 job and felt
Yeah.
kinda stuck. What's, like, the one piece
Yeah.
of wisdom that can help somebody get out of that?
Yeah. One piece of wisdom. One piece of wisdom. That's a really good question. I haven't gotten asked that.
Maybe just like a mindset or a tip or, a little golden nugget.
Yeah. 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 Hmm. When I was going through I'll give you guys a little story time, I guess, if you want. When I was starting my shop, man, I was going through a difficult part of my life. No one believes in you. They ignore you until they can't. That's a pretty cool quote I heard not too long ago. They're gonna talk shit regardless. People will talk shit regardless. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you're homeless. Someone's always got something to say, and that someone isn't gonna pay your bills. And if your opinions are based on someone's reality of your life, go live that someone's life. Don't care what they say. Don't take people's At the end of the day, no one knows what the fuck they're talking about, right? Especially in your business. So don't let their opinions dictate your future. That's kind of something that I was struggling with, especially in the beginning. I was so scared about how people were going to perceive me. What if I fail? What if I do this? What if I do that? Those same people that were talking shit on me when I first started are asking me how I did it now. So crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
They ignore you until they can't. Yeah.
I can tell you really felt that one. That's, like, something that really is advice that you took yourself.
Yeah. 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 Once you and I hope everyone gets that experience one day. Seriously, all the people in your community, I'm sure they're stellar people, but you guys will experience that one day when you become successful in your business, regardless if it's a small business or whatever business you want to start. I wish you the best in. Don't listen to what anyone has to say because if they had the balls to try it, they'd be in your position, but they don't. So they try to bring you down to their level. If you want to live a mediocre life, listen to them.
Alright,
Yeah.
man. Thanks for coming on the Get Wealth podcast.
Thank you. Yes, sir.